Aloha, I'm Kiana Cayabyab and you're watching Star News Live. Here are today's top Hawaii headlines from the editors at the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. Hanauma Bay Nature Preserve reopened to the public this morning for the first time since March when it was closed because of the coronavirus pandemic. The popular tourist attraction will have new restrictions and new hours, as well as limits on visitor days. The Honolulu Department of Parks and Recreation says only 720 people will be admitted each day. Before the pandemic, Hanauma Bay would welcome nearly 3,000 visitors daily. The bay will also be closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, and all visitors will have to leave the park by 4 p.m. on the days it's open. Face covering and social distancing will also be required for all visitors. The reopening is a pilot project that city leaders say will try to balance public enjoyment of the scenic bay with efforts to preserve the coral reef and its wildlife. Hawaii health officials today reported 78 new coronavirus infections statewide, bringing the total since the start of the pandemic to 18,044 cases. No new deaths were reported today, so the state's coronavirus-related death toll remains at 244. The U.S. coronavirus death toll was more than 272,000 today. Today's new infection cases in Hawaii include 63 on Oahu, 4 on Maui, 1 each on the Big Island and Kauai, and 9 Hawaii residents diagnosed outside of the state. Health officials say that 1,250 infections in Hawaii are currently active, which is 7 more than on Tuesday. There are 13 new hospitalizations reported, but Hawaii's hospitalization rate remains relatively low. The health department said that as of noon Tuesday, only 54 COVID patients were in Hawaii hospitals, with 19 of them in intensive care beds and 15 on ventilators. The first big winter swell arrived on north and west shores of most of Hawaiian Islands today. A high surf warning for the northern and western shores from Kauai to Molokai and north shores of Maui remains in effect through 6 p.m. Thursday. The National Weather Service issued the warning due to a large northwest swell that boosted waves to as high as 45 feet for Kauai County and 40 feet for Oahu, Molokai, and Maui. A high surf advisory is also in effect for the western shores of Hawaii Island through 6 p.m. Thursday. Ocean safety and civil defense officials are warning the public to stay away from the water on the affected beaches. Ocean water can surge across beaches and onto the coastal roadways and properties. Safety officials warn that anyone entering the water could face significant injury or death. Dozens of nurses held an informational picket outside the Kapi'olani Medical Center for Women and Children this morning to raise awareness about their contract fights with hospital management. The unionized nurses and respiratory therapists at the hospital are now working without a contract, and they say they are worried about patient care and unsafe conditions during the pandemic. The Hawaii Nurses Association represents about 725 nurses and 70 respiratory therapists at Kapi'olani. The union filed 3 unfair labor practice complaints with the National Labor Relations Board on Monday, just before the union contract expired. The union says the hospital has failed to negotiate in good faith and is putting workers at risk by requiring them to reuse N95 face masks. Hawaii Pacific Health, which owns Kapi'olani Medical Center, says it's continuing to ensure that the hospital has enough PPE to protect employees and patients, and that it is following CDC guidelines. The University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors will face San Jose State at home this Saturday with an early kickoff time of 1 p.m. The Mountain West Conference football game was supposed to be a home game for San Jose, but COVID restrictions in California's Santa Clara County forced an abrupt relocation to Hawaii. Several other mainland sites were considered, including in Las Vegas, before a deal was reached Tuesday to move the game to Aloha Stadium. The 1 p.m. kickoff time will be the earliest start for a UH football game since the Warriors played Brigham Young on December 8, 2001. The relocation will not change next year's football schedule rotation. San Jose State will still travel to Hawaii again in 2021. For more on these stories and all the latest headlines, subscribe to the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. Visit Hawaii's top source for breaking news online at staradvertiser.com and download the Star-Advertiser mobile app. Mahalo, and we'll see you tomorrow.